So guys, today I'm going to talk to you about how to present identity design to your clients. It's super important because a lot of times when I've worked with graphic designers before, even before I started Butler, when I was managing my mom's company, some of you guys know the story of how I started, I worked with other graphic designers and I wasn't really educated on the design process. I just knew what I liked and what I didn't like. I kind of knew what good design was and what bad design was, but it's more intuitive. I didn't know like the rules for what good design was. And so anyway, I worked with graphic designers and I would tell them this is the company or this is what we're doing. And there was no real like discovery process, and I would just kind of show them a couple of logos that I liked. They would just send me examples in my inbox and just kind of let me pick. And sometimes they'd show me one, sometimes they'd show me like 15. And me as at that time as an untrained person, I didn't really know how to be guided to the right direction. And so I just kind of went with what my gut felt like. And that's a terrible experience for a client. And what I realize is that clients, they're coming, they know that they want a logo. A lot of times they know what feels good, what looks right, but they're not designers. They're coming to us to really help them solve a business problem. If they could figure it out themselves, then they would do it. That's why they're coming to us. And so what we thought of ourselves as less of an order taker, more of a strategic partner. And when clients are coming to us, we know that they want us to solve their problems. And so how do we do that? We do that first through a discovery process. And I'm not gonna go over like how we do discovery because we've done that in another video. In fact, I'll probably link in the description on YouTube. But I want to talk today specifically about how after discovery, you do your magic in Illustrator or however you're designing, and then you present that to a client. We never just email logo concepts to a client. Don't ever do that. If you're doing that, stop, because what you're doing is you're just saying, here you go, tell me if you like it, and then you're just kind of leaving it up to them. Even if you sent them some context, you know, to read, nobody's gonna read, they're just gonna go straight to the design. So I never just email logo concepts. I always present logo concepts for brand identity. And so today I'm gonna go through some of the things that we review when we are presenting identity design to clients. One of the things that I tell my staff is that it's just as important in how you present it as it is coming up with the concept. So we spend about just as much time working through our concepts as we do refining the slide deck in which we present that to the client. It really starts with education. So when it's presentation day, I actually talk to them for about 5 or 10 minutes before we actually show them anything. And the reason why is because I'm educating them. The first point of education always happens in discovery. In fact, there's 2 slides that I added to my discovery document to help kind of pre-frame the client's thinking before we even go to making our concepts. And one of them is this slide where it says, this is not a logo. And it's a picture of an illustration. I just found this illustration somewhere on the internet. It's a beautiful picture, but it's not a logo. And the reason why I share this slide is because one time I was working with a client and they were a solar company and they specialized in helping people reduce their solar true-up bill. So he said, I want a logo, and because we're helping capture unused energy, I want a picture of a house. And I think it'd be cool if there was like electrical lines next to the house, like an electrical line going to the house with maybe electricity and then something capturing the electricity. And like as he's explaining this super detailed picture that he wants as his logo, I had to explain that that's not a logo, you're wanting an illustration. A logo is not supposed to say a whole lot of anything. It's identification. And so if you're trying to draw a picture, you're missing the point of what a logo design is. And what we actually ended up providing to him was a super simple shape. It was a logo mark. And he was sold on it, he loved it, and it made sense for him because why he was educated through the process. And so anyway, the education starts in the discovery process, but I'm opening up right now our what I call our strategy reveal template. And so I have this document called All Strategy Reveals. And so we do things like messaging, identity design, naming, you know, UX design. And so I have kind of like a template pre-made for all of the different types of strategies we might create and how we reveal those. And so this is the one that's called Brand Identity Strategy Reveal. And so I base off of the template, but then I always edit it for the specific client. And so today I'm going to show you just kind of like the general slides, and then I'll show you a couple of examples of how we've done that for clients. So I always start with this slide, and it says right here, a good trademark is not about what one likes or dislikes, it's about what works. Now, side note, I have stolen all of what I'm about to show you from other people. I've learned a lot from Michael Beirut, and significant amount of this is taken from Sagi Haviv. I have been following Sagi Haviv on YouTube, saw him through the Futures YouTube channel, and then I ended up seeing a course that he had on Domestika. So this is not all original content. This is me kind of picking from different people that I've learned from. And so even this statement is from Sagi Haviv. And the reason why I say it is because I know that I've succeeded as a designer when I come up with a logo that is completely unexpected to the client. They say, I would not have expected that. That's not what I was expecting to see, but I like it, it works. I get that it works for my brand. And so I know I succeeded when it's completely out of left field, but they know that it's the right choice because it's less subjective. It's not about what one likes or what one dislikes, it's about what works. The next slide I show them is the standard. So with that being said, there is a level of subjectivity when it comes to design, right? If you don't like it, if it's ugly and terrible, well, that does matter. But we want to make sure that our subjective opinion of the design is based off of a standard of what constitutes a good and a bad logo. And there is such a thing as a bad logo that's just objectively bad. It doesn't matter what your preference is. It's either objectively bad or it's objectively good. And so the standard we follow is really four things. It's appropriate, distinct, simple, and versatile. And then I go to explain what I mean by these things. So appropriate means it needs to make sense for the feeling, the emotion that is trying to emote from the design. So for example, you're not gonna use a very feminine script typeface for a boxing poster. You're not gonna use something very soft for an athletic design. Maybe you'll use something bold and dynamic for athletic. You'll use something more elegant for maybe a fashion brand or something like that. It needs to fit within, it needs to be appropriate for the feeling or the emotion of the brand. But aside from appropriateness, it also needs to be distinct. And that's kind of where the magic happens, is between appropriate for what we're trying to communicate or the industry, but also different enough from the competition that it doesn't just get lost in the sea of all the other logos that are out there. We want it to be distinct. We want it to stand out, to not be generic. And there's a magic to kind of find the balance between appropriate and distinct. So we need to make sure it's appropriate. We need to make sure it's distinct. The third rule is that it needs to be simple. So oftentimes when I'm designing something, or when my team is designing a logo, we'll just kind of sketch out different ideas. And sometimes they go more on the illustrative side as opposed to the simple and iconic side. And when it's on the more illustrative side, to where it becomes more of like a picture mark or something like that, maybe it starts out a little bit like very detailed. And so the goal is to try to reduce as much detail as you can, have a more reductive approach, because more complex, detailed logos start to fall apart in different applications. And so the best rule of thumb is the simpler the logo, the simpler the shape, the better the design. You got to think about nowadays, sometimes logos are shrunk down to as small as a favicon in your web browser, and so you have to account for that. And so is it appropriate? Is it distinct? Is it simple? Meaning we've displayed everything that needs to be displayed and nothing else. And then the last rule, is it versatile? And so by versatility, we're talking about the different applications. You're not gonna just look at a logo in all of its glory on a white background, right? And you just present it, here's your logo on a white background. It might look good, but how does the logo look in different applications? How does it look on signage? How does your logo look as an email signature? How does it look on a business card? How does it look in print material, wayfinding? All of these different things. Maybe it's packaging. We need to make sure that we can express this logo, this identity, in different context. And so that's why we show our clients, when we present identity design, we show them in different, what we call contextual applications. So that's the standard. The first slide, and I'm going a little bit more in detail with you, but I explain this to the client. A good trademark's not about what one likes or dislikes, it's about what works. And there is a standard for what constitutes a good logo: appropriateness, distinction, simplicity, and versatility. And then I start going into things that are more applicable to that particular logo. And so I pull up a slide that says the objective. What are we actually trying to communicate? Now, this is just in my template because I based the template off of an actual client. And so this is a super simple objective statement. Like, what are we trying to accomplish for this client? For this is the Coffee Vibe company. So the objective was to design a logo that makes a great first impression for the Coffee Vibe company. The logo should set the tone for the environment the Coffee Vibe wants to encourage. And so again, this objective is super simple, and that was really all the client wanted. It was to have something that expressed or that set the tone for the environment that they wanted to encourage. Sometimes, and you'll see in some of the other contexts, we go a little bit more detail in regards to the objectives. Again, the next few slides are very specific to this client. And so I asked them during discovery, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very traditional, 10 being very modern, how would you rate what you're expecting to make sense for your brand? More traditional, like it has its roots in some sort of a shared heritage, or more modern, like a brand new company, or maybe more like a modern kind of tech company. And for this client, she wanted something in the middle, more towards like a 5. And then I said, okay, what do you feel is more appropriate for your brand on a scale of 1 to 10, illustrative versus iconic? I mean, are we trying to illustrate something? Are we wanting something a little bit more detailed, a little bit more personality? Or something that's iconic, that's more simple, and it's just a bold statement piece. And this client leaned more towards iconic. And sometimes depending on the client, they'll be all the way traditional, or all the way modern, or all the way iconic versus all the way illustrative. And so it's really important to kind of set expectations as to what your clients are expecting to see. The next slide is talking about the logo style. And so for this client, we talk, again, in the discovery, we educate on the different types of logos there are. And for this client, she wanted either a word mark or an icon plus a word mark would be most appropriate for her brand. All these slides up until now is basically just educational. I've gone through it in a little bit more lengthy detail with you guys, but usually that takes about 5 minutes. So as I'm presenting this to the client, they're kind of, by this point, like, I just want to see it already. Okay, I get it, I want to see it. And so I've educated them, I've told them about the standard, I've gone over their objectives for their particular brand, and the kind of the strategy that we're following for what led to our design decisions. And then I tell them, I'm going to show you our concepts now. And actually, I think we're probably going to quit the video right now just because I wanted to set the stage. In the next video, I'm going to show you a couple of actual examples. But before I do, I just want to let you know that when it comes to presenting your concepts, it's okay if you only have one concept to show your client. I try to not show any more than 3. It's very rare to where I'll show 4 concepts. The reason why is because it's kind of like watching Netflix. Most, if you're like me, and a lot of people I know, we spend more time scrolling through all the options rather than just watching something because we have so many choices. Back in the day, TV, you just flip it on, you have a few choices, you just select what channel you're gonna watch, and that's what we're watching. Nowadays, we have decision fatigue because we have so many choices. It just takes us so long to pick which one we're gonna actually want. We become picky and we start basing things off of non-helpful standards. And so I don't want to give them a buffet of all these different logo concepts. Even if we might have 15 different sketches and concepts that we think might work, we'll narrow it down to the few that we really want to present to the client for a couple of reasons. One is it makes it easier, and second, it also speeds up the process. And then the third reason is because we typically, as we're selling brand identity, we include up to 3 concepts. And so if I show them 2 2 concepts and we're way off base on both of those concepts, we have a third concept that we can show them at no additional cost, so we don't have to incur any kind of overages. And so, and it also helps you kind of set expectations. And so I go through all of that education, and then I reveal to the client our concepts. And in the next video, I'll show you guys a couple of different concepts that we've showed clients. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Make sure this content gets out to more people. And if you are a creative entrepreneur and you're looking to level up, maybe you feel stuck, learn from my mistakes. At agency.butlerbranding.com, we have a free webinar that talks about everything I've learned in scaling Butler branding since we started in 2012. I'm talking about everything I've learned from brand positioning, marketing, sales, strategy, and project management. So learn to level up for free at agency.butlerbranding.com.